This is the story of something that really happened. Something I still get chills thinking about. I'm going to tell you the story of a high school lockdown that turned into a nightmare. A real horror story. So listen closely. Because every word of this is true. It started on a cold Friday morning. I remember because I was wearing my thick hoodie, the black one with the ripped sleeve. It was just a normal day. Boring math class, kids half asleep, and Mr. Langley writing equations on the board like he was trying to punish us for something. Nothing felt weird. Not yet. It was around 10:23 a.m. when the intercom buzzed. That sudden loud crackle before the voice comes on. It always makes people jump. Then we heard the words that stopped everyone cold. This is a lockdown. Repeat. This is a lockdown. Teachers, lock your doors. Students, stay quiet and out of sight. You know how usually when there's a drill, teachers roll their eyes and mutter something about not having time for this? Not this time. Mr. Langley moved fast. He locked the door, shut the blinds, and told everyone to get down behind the desks. That's when I started feeling it. Something was wrong. No one was laughing. No one whispered jokes. Everyone just went quiet. Even Kyle, the class clown who never shut up, was frozen next to me, eyes wide. We waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then 15. That's when we heard the first noise. A loud bang. Not a knock. No. A bang. Like someone was slamming their shoulder into a locker. And then footsteps. Heavy. Fast. Running past our classroom. We didn't breathe. There was no announcement. No update. Just silence. Then, more footsteps. Slower this time. Closer. Our door had a little glass window. You couldn't see much through it with the blinds down, but we saw a shadow stop right in front of it. No one moved. No one even blinked. Then came the worst sound, the handle slowly turning. Click, click, click. It was locked, of course. But they were trying. Someone whispered, "Who is that?" But no one answered. The shadow stood there for a while. Then, it just walked away. The footsteps faded down the hall. I thought maybe it was a cop. Maybe someone checking doors. Maybe we were safe. But then, from the far end of the hallway, we heard a scream. A real one. A student's voice, high-pitched and terrified. And then, another bang. I don't know what happened next, but it sounded like chaos. Things being thrown. More screams. A crash like glass shattering. Then silence. Again, I was shaking. Everyone was. That's when I saw my friend Mia pull out her phone. She tried to text her mom. No service. No internet. No messages going through. I checked mine too. Same thing. It was like the school was cut off from the world. I started to think this wasn't just some random incident. Something bigger was happening. Suddenly the fire alarm started going off. Now you'd think that's good, right? Get out of the building. But that's the worst thing during a lockdown. Everyone looked around, unsure. Mr. Langley looked like he was about to lose. He told us not to move. It could be a trap, he whispered. And he was right. About 2 minutes after the alarm started, we saw the shadow come back. This time, it wasn't alone. There were 2 figures outside the classroom. One of them bent down, trying to see through the blinds. I don't know how they couldn't hear how loud our hearts were pounding. I was pressed so tight against the wall I thought I'd disappear into it. They tried the handle again. Click, click, click. Still locked. Then came another bang. They were hitting the door hard. Again and again. I could see Mr. Langley gripping a chair like he was ready to fight someone. Mia had tears running down her cheeks, and me, I just stared at that door, waiting for it to break open. But then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. They ran again, fast, down the hall. We heard another scream, a boy this time. And then, nothing. We stayed like that for what felt like hours, but it was only 30 minutes. Finally, the intercom came on again. But it wasn't the usual calm voice of the principal. It was shaky. "This is Officer Diaz with the local police department. Stay where you are. Do not move. We are clearing the building." That was when I realized this wasn't a drill. It wasn't even a normal lockdown. It was an attack. We heard more footsteps. This time it was officers. Real ones. Guns out, moving from room to room. When they got to ours, they banged on the door and shouted, "It's the police! Show your hands!" Mr. Langley slowly opened the door, and we saw the SWAT team outside. They rushed us out, 2 by 2, down the hall, through the back exit. I'll never forget that hallway. Lockers wide open, papers scattered everywhere, a blood trail near the lockers. I don't even want to know who it belonged to. Outside, there were dozens of police cars, parents crying, helicopters in the sky. We found out later what really happened. 2 former students, expelled the year before. They planned everything. They cut the power to the cell towers near the school to block communication. They pulled the fire alarm hoping kids would run into the halls so they could grab as many as possible. One of them was caught. The other ran off into the woods behind the school. They caught him a day later. 3 students were seriously hurt, 1 teacher too. But no one died, thank God. Still, it left a scar. That school never felt safe again. Every time the intercom buzzed after that, people jumped. Every little noise made us freeze. And me? I still check every room I enter. Still, listen for footsteps when it's quiet, because that day, I learned something. Horror doesn't always wear a mask or wait until nightfall. Sometimes, it walks right into your school on a Friday morning and turns your world into a nightmare. That's the true story of our high school lockdown, and I wish it was just a story, but it's not. This is the story of something that still keeps me up at night. A true high school lockdown horror story. I'm going to tell it to you exactly how it happened, because even though it's been a few years, I remember every second of it. So just sit back, listen carefully, and don't take your school safety drills for granted. It happened during my junior year at Brookside High. I was 17, just an average student trying to survive high school. My best friends, Emma, Tyler, and Jordan, we always sat together in English class, 4th period, right after lunch. That's where it all began. It was a Thursday. I remember because Emma kept saying, "One more day till the weekend," and we were all just counting down minutes until the bell rang. Our teacher, Mrs. Green, was talking about some Shakespeare play, but no one was paying attention. Not even her, really. That's when the intercom crackled. We expected the usual announcements. Someone called to the office. But what we heard instead sent chills through the entire room. "This is a lockdown." Repeat. "This is a lockdown. Teachers, secure your doors." Students remained silent and hidden. There was something about the tone that made my stomach drop. It wasn't calm. It was shaky. Nervous. Mrs. Green immediately moved to the door, locked it, shut the blinds, and told us to get down. "No one talks. Phone silent. Don't move," she said. We all crouched behind desks, trying to make ourselves invisible. You could hear the soft rustle of clothes and someone's breathing, but that was it. Tyler was next to me, and I could tell by his face that this wasn't just a drill. We'd done lockdown drills before, but this one felt different. 15 minutes passed, nothing happened, then bang! A loud thud echoed from somewhere in the hallway. Everyone froze. The noise came again, louder, like someone slamming into a locker or a door. Someone whispered, "What was that?" No one answered. Then we heard running, fast footsteps, pounding down the hallway. A scream followed, high-pitched, terrified. Not a joke, not a prank. Real fear. Jordan clutched my arm. Emma had her hands over her mouth, eyes wide with tears. And then we heard it. A voice, deep, angry, a man's voice, shouting something we couldn't make out. It didn't sound like a teacher, didn't sound like a student either. It was too rough, too cold. More footsteps, then silence. Mrs. Green slowly moved to the door, still crouched. She looked like she wanted to say something but didn't. Instead, she stared at the doorknob, waiting, like she expected it to turn any second. And it did. The handle moved. Click, click, click. Someone was trying to open the door. Emma let out a tiny squeak and buried her face in her knees. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. Whoever it was stayed there, trying the handle for what felt like forever. Then, a knock. Not gentle. Hard. Like they were testing the door's strength. Then came silence. They were gone. Or so we thought. Suddenly, the fire alarm went off. That loud, blaring noise filled the room. Half the class jumped. Some stood up instinctively, thinking we were supposed to leave, but Mrs. Green yelled, "Sit down, do not move, it's a trick." She was right. About 2 minutes after the alarm started, we heard gunshots. Not fake, not blanks, real gunshots. Echoing down the hallway, someone screamed again. A boy's voice. Then more running, more yelling, and then a sound I'll never forget. The door next to ours, the science lab, was kicked in. We heard the crash of body, glass, chairs tipping, students screaming. Whatever was happening next door was bad, really bad. We were frozen in place, too scared to cry, too scared to speak. Then, silence again. That's how it went for the next 20 minutes. Loud noises, screams, running. Then silence. Over and over. Like whoever was doing this was playing a game. Like they wanted us scared. I could barely breathe. I remember texting my mom with shaking hands. "I love you. There's a shooter. I don't know if I'll make it." The message didn't send, no signal. Just then someone knocked on our classroom door, a soft knock, and a voice. "Mrs. Green, it's Principal Harris. You can open up," but it didn't sound like him. Mrs. Green didn't move. She looked at us, then back at the door. Then the voice repeated, but this time it sounded fake, like someone trying too hard to sound calm. She didn't open it. Thank God. 10 minutes later, we heard sirens outside, police cars, dozens of them. Then the loudspeaker buzzed. "This is the police. Stay calm, stay hidden. We are clearing the building." It took another 30 minutes before they reached us. When they opened the door, 4 officers in full gear entered with their rifles. One of them said, "You're safe now. Follow us," hands visible. We walked out in 2 lines, down the hallway that looked like a war zone. Broken glass, blood trails, books and backpacks scattered everywhere. I saw a shoe in the middle of the floor, Just one. No foot. But it still made my stomach twist. Outside, they led us to the football field. Helicopters buzzed above. News vans parked near the gates. Students crying. Teachers holding each other. Parents running toward us. Later, we found out the truth. It was a 22-year-old man named Derek Marshall. He'd graduated from Brookside 2 years before. Quiet guy. Had a history of mental illness and had been kicked out of college. No one knew he had a grudge against the school. He'd come in through a side door someone forgot to lock. He had a handgun and a knife. He'd made fake badges and even hacked the fire system somehow. The fire alarm was part of his plan, to flush students into the halls. He hurt 5 people. One teacher got stabbed trying to protect his students. A freshman was shot in the leg. Thankfully, no one died. He was caught in the science wing, hiding under a desk when SWAT found him. He was arrested, and the whole country saw it on the news. After that, school was never the same. We had metal detectors, armed guards, random bag checks. But the real damage wasn't the broken windows or blood-stained lockers. It was the silence, the fear that never went away. Emma changed schools. Tyler barely talked anymore. Jordan had panic, attacks in class. And me? I couldn't sleep for weeks. Every noise sounded like footsteps. Every knock made me jump. That's the true story of our high school lockdown. It happened. It was real. And I'll never forget it. Not for the rest of my life. This is the story of the worst day at Lincoln High, a day no one who was there will ever forget. I want you to listen closely because this is a true story, a real high school lockdown horror story. It wasn't some made-up movie plot or a scary rumor. It happened to my friends and me, and even now, thinking about it makes my skin crawl. It started on an ordinary Tuesday morning. I was sitting in Mr. Bennett's history class, trying to stay awake after a late night of studying. My friends, Sarah and Mike, were joking around in the back row, but I was too focused on the lecture to join in. The sun was streaming through the windows and everything seemed normal. At least it did. Then, without warning, the intercom crackled. We all froze the second we heard the principal's voice, but this time, it wasn't calm or routine like a drill. It sounded urgent, even scared. Attention students and staff. This is a lockdown. Please secure your classrooms immediately. Do not leave your rooms. Stay quiet. I repeat, this is not a drill. Mr. Bennett's face went pale. He locked the classroom door and drew the blinds. Everyone get down and stay silent, he whispered. Sarah pulled out her phone, but there was no signal, no Wi-Fi, no messages going through. We all knew something was seriously wrong. Minutes passed. 10, maybe 15. We heard nothing but the ticking of the clock on the wall and our own shallow breaths. Then, the silence was shattered by a loud bang, like someone kicked a locker down the hall. The entire class jumped. "What was that?" Mike whispered. Before anyone could answer, more banging followed. This time, coming from the other side of the hall, near the gym. The sounds were heavy and aggressive, not random noises. Someone was deliberately smashing things. Then we heard screaming, high-pitched, terrified, real screams. They were coming closer. I could see Mr. Bennett gripping the edge of his desk like he was trying to stay calm. "Stay down, stay quiet," he said. But his voice shook. Suddenly, the classroom door rattled violently. Someone was banging on it from the outside. My heart stopped. We all pressed against the back wall, hoping whoever it was wouldn't see or hear us. The banging stopped as quickly as it began. Footsteps ran down the hallway. Then came a sound that still haunts me. Gunshots. Sharp, loud pops that echoed through the corridors. The lights flickered and went out, plunging us into darkness. "Everyone stay calm," Mr. Bennett said, but no one moved. No one even dared to breathe. We heard more footsteps, slower now, coming from the direction of the library. Then came the screaming again, but this time it was a girl crying, begging for help. Sarah started to sob quietly. Mike clenched his fists, trying to stay strong. It felt like hours before the police finally arrived. They moved through the school like ghosts, quiet, fast, and armed. When they reached our classroom, the lead officer knocked loudly and announced, "This is the police. You're safe now. Open the door slowly." Mr. Bennett unlocked the door, and we filed out one by one. The hallway was a mess. Broken glass, overturned chairs, and blood smeared on the floor. Outside, parents were waiting, some crying, some shouting their children's names. We later learned that a man had entered the school through the back parking lot. His name was Jason Miller, a former student who had been expelled the year before. He was armed with a pistol and a large knife. His plan was to hurt as many people as he could. He moved through the halls randomly, breaking into classrooms and attacking anyone he found. 3 students and 1 teacher were seriously injured. Thankfully, the school resource officer confronted him in the gym and was able to stop him before anyone else was hurt. The lockdown lasted over 2 hours. The whole school was shut down for days after that. The scariest part? Jason had planned everything. The times, the routes, even how to disable the school's security cameras. Since that day, everything at Lincoln High changed. Security was tighter than ever. Every student had to go through metal detectors. Doors were locked all day. Armed guards patrolled the halls. But even with all the changes, the fear never fully went away. Sarah transferred to another school. Mike still gets nightmares about the gunshots. And me? I sometimes hear noises when I'm alone, and I still jump at every loud sound. That's the true story of the Lincoln High lockdown. A day of terror that none of us will ever forget. And it's a reminder that sometimes real horror walks right through the doors of the places we think are safe. This is the story of a day at Westbrook High that changed everything for me, and for everyone who was there. I want you to listen closely, because this isn't just some scary story to entertain you. This is a true high school lockdown horror story, and it still haunts me. It started like any other day. I was in math class sitting next to my friend Rachel. Our teacher, Mr. Collins, was writing formulas on the board, and most of us were half listening, waiting for the bell to ring. I remember joking with Rachel about the upcoming weekend, and for a moment everything felt normal. But then the intercom crackled, and the voice of the principal came through. But it wasn't his usual calm tone. "Attention. This is a lockdown. Lock your doors immediately. Stay quiet and stay out of sight. Police are responding to an emergency. Do not leave your classrooms." The blood drained from Mr. Collins's face. He quickly locked the door and pulled down the blinds. "Everyone, get down and stay quiet," he whispered. We all dropped to the floor, trying not to panic. I could feel Rachel's hand shaking next to mine. The room went silent except for the sound of heavy breathing. Minutes passed, but they felt like hours. Then, suddenly, a loud bang echoed down the hallway. A heavy, violent thud, like someone had slammed a door or kicked a locker hard. Then more banging, closer this time, followed by a scream. It was a girl's voice, high-pitched and terrified. Mr. Collins told us to stay low, but we could all feel the fear growing inside the classroom. Then came the sound that made my heart freeze. The doorknob rattled. Someone was trying to get in. We tycoon held our breath as the handle turned slowly. Click, click, click. But the door didn't open. Whoever it was kept trying, then gave up and walked away. The silence came back, but it was worse than before. Suddenly, the fire alarm started blaring. At first, some students thought the lockdown was over and started to stand. But Mr. Collins shouted, "Sit down, don't move, it's a trick." Then gunshots rang out in the hallway, sharp, echoing pops that sounded so close I felt them in my chest. We all dropped instantly, some of us crying quietly. The chaos outside was terrifying, running footsteps, shouting voices, and more screams. After what felt like forever, police officers burst into the hallway. They were heavily armed and shouting orders. "We have the shooter contained. Stay calm. We will get to you soon." Eventually, they opened our classroom door and let us out one by one. The hallway was a nightmare. Broken glass everywhere, blood on the walls, backpacks scattered on the floor. Outside, parents were waiting, some crying, some hugging their kids tightly. Later, we learned the shooter was a former student named Alex Turner. He had been expelled for threatening behavior, but was never reported to the police. That day, he came back with a gun, angry and desperate. He injured 5 students and a teacher before the school resource officer confronted and subdued him. The lockdown lasted over 2 hours. Since then, the school changed completely. Metal detectors, security guards, strict entry checks, all became normal. But the fear never left us. Rachel transferred schools. Mike, another friend, still has panic attacks. And me? I can't hear a loud noise without jumping. That's the true story of the Westbrook High lockdown, a day of horror none of us will ever forget. It shows that sometimes the scariest dangers come from where we least expect them. This is the story of a terrifying day at Crestwood High, a day that still haunts me, and one I want you to hear carefully because it's a true high school lockdown horror story. It wasn't just a scary tale made up to shock people. It actually happened to students like me and to people you might know. It was a normal Wednesday morning. I was sitting in the library with my friends Jake and Emily. We were supposed to be working on a group project, but mostly we were just goofing off, scrolling through our phones and laughing quietly. The librarian was somewhere else, and the whole place felt calm and quiet. Suddenly, the loudspeaker buzzed and the principal's voice came through, but it wasn't calm or routine like the usual announcements. "Attention all students and staff. This is a lockdown. Please lock all doors, stay out of sight, and remain silent. Law enforcement is on the way. Do not leave your location until further notice." Jake's face went pale. Emily's hand gripped mine tightly. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. We locked the library doors and turned off the lights. I pulled the heavy curtains over the windows, trying to block out the hall. The library, usually full of noise and movement, fell completely silent. The only sound was the soft rustling of pages as someone nervously flipped a book. Then came the faint but steady sound of footsteps in the hallway outside. They were slow, deliberate, and heavy. We all held our breath. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. Then came a sharp knock. Someone was trying to get in. Emily whispered, "What if it's him?" I shook my head. "Don't say that." The knocking stopped. We waited, heartbeats pounding, but nothing else happened. Then suddenly, from somewhere down the hall, we heard a blood-curdling scream. It was a girl's voice, loud, desperate, full of fear. Jake covered his mouth to stop himself from shouting. "We have to stay quiet," he said. Minutes later, there was another noise, the sound of something heavy being dragged across the floor. Then came the worst part, a gunshot. The sharp crack echoed down the hallway. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. We heard more footsteps running closer and closer. "Stay down," I whispered. But even my voice felt loud in the silence. The door handle rattled violently. Someone was trying to force the door open. We all pressed against the far wall, hoping we were invisible. The handle stopped moving, and the footsteps hurried away. After what felt like forever, police officers arrived. They ran through the halls, shouting commands, searching every room. When they reached the library, an officer knocked on the door and called out, "This is the police. You're safe now. Open up slowly." Emily unlocked the door and we walked out one by one. The halls were a mess. Broken lockers, scattered papers, and bloodstains on the floor. Outside, worried parents and students crowded the parking lot. Some were crying, others holding their friends tightly. Later, we found out the attacker was a student named Ryan Matthews. He had been suspended for fighting and brought a gun to school that day, planning revenge. He hurt 3 students and a teacher before the school security guard managed to stop him. The lockdown lasted almost 3 hours. The whole school was closed for days after. Since that day, everything changed. Security was increased. Doors were locked all day, cameras were everywhere, and the police were a regular presence. Jake stopped coming to school. Emily still has panic attacks, and I sometimes wake up at night hearing footsteps. This is the true story of Crestwood High's lockdown, a day no one will ever forget. It shows how quickly safety can turn to fear, and how real horror can walk through the doors we trust most.